Since we're human, we're definitely prone to making mistakes and perhaps letting others advise us and redirect our paths, especially if we make decisions impulsively or when we're excited or when there are surrounding incentives. A lot of times that can kind of blind us to what our decision can do to others in terms of emotional impact, as well as violating uh, pretty much a moral, well, I was going to say moral, but it's also just a code of ethics that we should all kind of have within us. Um, Nobody, as it pertains to this death metal band putting out a song about hanging that actually lyrically doesn't say anything specifically to Katelyn Nicole Davis's story. Nobody is trying to silence Katelyn Nicole Davis's story. If anything, those of us who have been touched by her and her story have, if anything, we have spread her story relentlessly over the years since we first learned about her. Not in a cryptic, vague way where we just take a 10-second snippet of her last dying moment and don't even say that it's her until we are pressured to 48 hours later. We have attended and hosted suicide groups. We get active in the community. We actually encourage everybody to watch her live streams, even though people have tried to get her live streams taken down. Her dying moment did not define her. Her dying moment does not tell her story. And her dying moment was the result. It was not causation. The only way that prevention can occur and awareness can occur is by learning what the cause of problems were, what the cause of the tragedy was. Yes, it is important that people understand that, she did hang herself at 12. It's important that people don't skim over that fact and that they actually sit there and really let it, they sit with that reality. They don't just read it like it's a character from a book. It's important that they really envision that in their minds, not the actual suicide, but they actually envision that she took those steps at 12. But the many, there are so many out there, live streams of her, different ones on different days, the preceding days that led up to her hanging. She is crying in agony. There are arguments that took place with her mother about being molested, about neglect. You see her in her daily life from morning to night, feeding her siblings, giving them the last hot dog, even though she hadn't eaten all day. Things like that. I mean, it may sound like small stuff, but it adds up, and that's what caused her to hang herself. That would be like acting like you're spreading awareness about cancer when all you're doing is showing the moment that the cancer patient is struggling for air and dying. That's not spreading cancer awareness, especially if you don't actually indicate who the person was or what they're dying of or anything. You just play the sound effect, basically just for sensationalism. And doing it after the fact, by the way, putting someone's name in a description after you've been pressured to, that what does that say about you, honestly, and your intention? But yeah, spreading cancer awareness would actually be talking about the symptoms of the cancer so that people can actually be aware of what the red flags are, what the signs are. In Katelyn's case, it was many different things: absent dad, negligent mother, drugs in the family, being molested and it being ignored, CPS doing nothing, being thrown Prozac, etc., etc. The list could go on forever. So yeah, nobody has tried to silence anyone. I see that this band And they still have yet to say a single thing about Katelyn as a human being. They just throw her name here and there. They actually don't acknowledge anything about her story or her as a person. They just keep using words like pain, darkness, silence, quivering in the mirror. Very, edgy phrases and stuff, but they're not actually talking about her as a human being, like what she specifically went through. The lyrics of their song, and I did read them, all it does is describe how mental suffering kind of manifests physically, into an act of suicide, but it doesn't actually talk about anything else. And they can, music is art, so people can interpret that however they want. My problem is not with the music in and of itself, although I don't really care for death metal, but that doesn't matter. Like, that's not... And it's sad that that people have come to me to make another video to even talk about this. It's sad that I'm even at a point where I have to repeat it. I mean, this isn't me thinking that I have authority over anyone. That's ridiculous. Sorry, my speaker's making a weird tapping noise. This is just about, honestly, common sense. If you're an adult, this should be common sense for you. Katelyn live streamed that for as long as she did, assuming that the death metal band members watched the video. She live streamed it for a pretty long time for someone who's wanting to off themselves. And for most people with logic, that is an indication that she was wanting to be seen. There's someone else out there too, John Crimes is his name. I'm not very familiar with him, but lately he's been documenting the exact location of where she ended her life in the yard and other things. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to go out there and observe the property myself, but based on his observations, there's a chance that she selected that spot hoping to be seen also, just based on where it is from the yard. Although at the time of her suicide, it was a lot more lush. There were many more plants. There was way more vegetation blocking her view. So I don't know. None of us were in her head. We don't really know. But, for as long, the duration of her live stream, her last live stream, is definitely an indication that she wanted to be stopped. If somebody doesn't want to be stopped the second that they're alone, they are not going to waste any time. Again, that's common sense. So because of that, I also think that it's really effed up to pretend like that's... And a lot of people, they can interpret it however they want. If they feel like what she did was a protest, fine. But again, that does not define her. And there is absolutely nothing constructive with playing a 10-second audio clip of someone gasping for air, you hear a bucket kicking, and someone's dying moment. It's bad enough to hear her crying and basically just, it's really a reflection of the inner voice that she had, which was that she was just worthless. She believed what the stepfather was saying. Now, that clip alone was not the only clip that portrayed that, okay? There were so many other clips of her crying in the camera, talking about how her stepdad calls her worthless, and she's worthless, and she needs to die. So, every time they want to say like that moment was a protest and blah, 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 and that's why that clip needs to be played, that is absolutely bogus. Because or let me put it this way, they can think of it as a protest, that's fine. Maybe it was. But that was not the only moment where she was expressing those same feelings. It's just not when she was gasping for air. It's not when she was struggling to breathe. Okay. I understand in death metal, it's all about, darkness, follow the pain, hunt me down, let's die together in the abyss. Whatever. Okay, I get it. Whatever. It makes... This is the thing. To me, it just shows how ignorant a lot of these people are, the death metal people who are claiming... Like, they act like you have to be, like, at one end of the... Like, they act like if you're not sitting there, like, wah! oh my God, like that if you don't have like this take on suicide, like if you're not on their page with like playing her dying moment and you're not like okay with putting it in, you know, talking of, I hate pretending like their song was about Katelyn because it's not, point blank. Like that's not me being like having a bias. It truly is not about Katelyn. It wasn't. That's why they didn't put anything about Katelyn in the beginning until people pressured them to yesterday. But like just because you're not doing like them and playing the clip where she's gasping for air, like that does not at all mean that people are silencing anything or ignoring. Like, in fact, that's the opposite. Ignoring is playing a clip of a little girl gasping for air, but not putting her name anywhere, not actually telling her story at all, and then doing a song about hanging yourself, but still not including anything about this little girl. And then not doing anything actually about suicide awareness, about kids who are neglected, about CPS who ignores people, about kids being thrown Prozac, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's ignoring. That's ignoring Katelyn. Just using a sound effect of her where she's dying, but no acknowledgement of her whatsoever. That's ignoring. Okay? That's ignoring. You don't need the sound effect. Her where she's crying in the camera in agony days and days and weeks and months leading up to that point, that's educational. That's insightful. That is where people implement change. You know, seeing the result of something is not the same. That's why people put out documentaries about tragedies. You know, they don't just show the dead bodies in the death camps. They actually show documentaries that show what led up to that, what caused it, what, you know, signs were going on before people realized what was about to happen. You know, it's just shock value. Like when people, it reminds me of these tacky, cheap, trashy memes that I see being passed around on Facebook of like dead puppies or you know, puppies being stomped. Or like I was saying, bodies in the death camps, but it's not actually telling a story. It's not involving names. It's not saying anything about what can be done. It's not. I mean, if you don't have any information to back up what you're saying, then literally you're just spreading stuff for shock value. Literally, if you don't put names or anything or tell a story, it is merely for shock value. That is it. That would be like news stations just playing clips of kids getting beaten or something and not including anything else about it. That's all it would be, is shock value. Oh, look at this, hear this child dying. Listen to the darkness. Listen to her soul leaving her body. Like, okay, but you're not putting the person's name. You're not actually doing anything else. And here's the thing, you guys. We realized that these people, we gave them the benefit of the doubt. Okay? This is before they put the video or whatever, like made it to where you can watch it, okay? We gave them the benefit of the doubt. Several people, and this is proven through recorded conversation, contacted Valley Memorial Hospital, where they claimed, or this band claimed, to have made a sizable donation. Not that that would have been anything redeeming, based on, like, again, like, everything they're saying is self-defense and attacks and accusations and lies. They're obsessed with, okay, let me finish my thought. They did not make a donation. They're not even accepting donations right now. So that was a flat-out fib, okay? Fib. But again, not that it would have been redeeming. Their whole response to this, to people being upset, isn't, they haven't shown no remorse. They haven't said, I understand that you're emotionally invested in this little girl, and, you know, while I can appreciate that, you know, I promise that was not our intent. They haven't shown any bit of understanding. All they've done is attack and play victim. They still don't acknowledge Katelyn as a human and tell her story. They lied because when they finally added her name and about the clip, her information about the clip into the description, they made it look like they did it the day they published the song. They put it under a false date, which we actually have screenshots of when they actually had no information about Katelyn on there to prove that they fibbed about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, shut them down or anything like that, boycott them or take away the video or whatever. You know, they're adults. This is what they think is right. It's obviously, to most people, not. And not saying that, the masses are always right. The masses have been wrong many times. A lot of their fan base is just going to automatically take how they're acting as acceptable because they're just, I guess their bias is that strong. But here's the irony. This band keeps throwing around the words bias, pride, ego, and authority. They are obsessed with those words, and I feel like it's projection. Like, when I sent them a civil message about this, I was told that I was intellectually trapping because I said that I felt like one of their fangirls was only agreeing with what they're doing because she's a fangirl. Of course, that's a bias, but there's no trapping. And then he proceeded to say that I thought I had authority, that I was acting like I have authority. Look, I never told anyone to take anything down. I said that I hope in hindsight that these people realize how it would upset people. And that, hopefully they edit out that part. That's what I said. So, as far as pride and ego goes, I've only seen that being reflected in their responses. I have seen zero remorse, zero humility, zero understanding. I tried to understand them from the beginning. I even said, maybe people make decisions sometimes when they're an impulsive decision, and then they realize thereafter that it was faulty, to say the least. But in this case, there has been zero self-assessing, just pure defensiveness and offensiveness. But anyway, so that's all I can really say about it. They're grown men. They are choosing to make themselves out to be victims rather than understand why people might feel the way they feel. I tried to put myself in their shoes and see things from what they're saying, but you just can't get past the fact that they didn't make it about Katelyn. They didn't include her name. They didn't put her in the description. They don't have her in the lyrics. Literally, they just used a sound effect from when she was dying. So that doesn't tell her story. That doesn't do anything about suicide awareness. A lot of people in the comments didn't even realize that it was a real suicide that took place because that's how much they didn't tell Katelyn's story. That's how much they ignored her as a human being. But then they have the audacity to say that other people are ignoring suicide. It's a taboo topic. I've talked about suicide and death since I were a little girl. I've been known as a controversial taboo woman. I don't have to put tattoos all over my body and in order to talk about the taboo. Like, it's not about aesthetic. It's about courage, and it's about integrity, and it's about caring. Really, at the end, what do you care about? My entire channel is demonetized. Not a single thing that I talk about gets monetization. I can prove that. My friends in my little group chat are made privy to my YouTube whatever endeavors because they've done podcasts with me. And anyway, yeah. So, I mean, that's all I have to say. I'm sorry to those of you who really want the video down, but, this is YouTube, and even though it should be better monitored, their staff, I feel like, are mostly just robots, literal robots that just skim over keywords and look at the frequency of reporting and base their decisions off that. And I say that because I had one video removed. I started getting this influx of comments from people from India. I actually couldn't read the language. I had to translate the comments, but I started getting like 10 to 15 comments a day out of the blue on my pregnancy and labor and delivery video. And it shows no nudity in it at all. There are so many beautiful memories. It was filmed with like some really old cheap camera back in 2010. I only uploaded it on YouTube because I didn't know I could upload it anywhere else. This was before the internet really was like it is today, or as far as I knew. So I used YouTube to upload it. Like, it was like a baby book for myself, to look back on. It wasn't for views or anything like that. Well, the video got super popular, and they actually, when I started getting those influx of comments from people from India, I think because that brought more attention to my video, like YouTube paid more attention or something, because they just removed my video. They gave me no warning. They, nothing. Like, they literally just took it down, and they didn't privatize it or anything. Like, if they had requested that I privatize it or something, gladly. I have no problem. But it was actually very educational for people. I got an epidural with that pregnancy. And most videos you see on YouTube are all about like shock value. So like you see women who are doing it in like bathtubs and stuff. Like you see, it's not, you don't see like the common epidural pregnancy that a lot of women want to see. And my pregnancies were so easy. My deliveries were so easy that like it was really like the comments I would get were like heartwarming, because these women who are terrified to have a baby, they'd watch my video and they would feel so much better. And plus too, I mean, it's my girl being born, you know what I mean? Like, and they took that down. They took that away from me without even warning me. And it's not archived or anything. There's nothing I can do. It's disgusting. It's infuriating. And yeah, so the fact that they keep things up like a 12-year-old girl's dying moment, the audio of it, which, you know, some people are blind, so to them that would be everything to hear that. You know, that's intense. That's, well, intensity's fine. It's morbid is what it is. It's gore. And then they want to be like, well, if you don't let people hear that, then you're ignoring it and you're silencing and people are paying attention. Yes, I'm making fun of death metal right now. I'm sorry. Okay, I shouldn't be doing that. I'm stooping to a low. But that's not ignoring. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's acting, you know, that's like saying that you don't care about people being beheaded in the Middle East if you don't sit there and watch their head being sliced off. Give me a break. You know, these Doctors Without Borders, some of the most noble doctors I've ever known, who don't even get paid. They just go across the borders and help out these dying people. You know, they don't sit there and they don't have to like watch every dying moment. They went to school and sacrifice a lot to go and help these people. Like, there are so many people who do amazing things for people who don't have to sit there and like spread a dying moment. Like, it doesn't do anything to help suicidal people, is I guess the point I'm trying to make. It doesn't do anything to help prevent future suicides or spread awareness or face suicide, you know. To equate like not wanting to hear a child's dying moment to ignoring that child's cries for help and what causes suicide and etc. is asinine. It's just an excuse to try to push your aesthetic is all it is. So go ahead and think whatever y'all want.